What's going on, everybody? Hey, we continue with Reestablishing the Truth, our summer devotional series, and I want to let you know that this devotional today is an offshoot from the sermon I just preached this last Sunday, titled Understanding the Times, a Message to the American Church. Likewise, this devotional is an offshoot from a podcast interview that Pastor Kyle and I did with an individual named Lucas Miles. He's the founder of the American Pastors Project, and he's also the author of a newly released book titled Woke Jesus, the False Messiah Destroying Christianity. Hey, my basic premise for today is that there's nothing new under the sun, especially as it pertains to heresies that the church has to fight against. The church is either fighting against heretical teachings that lean towards legalism, or the church is battling against teachings which lean towards a licensing of sin. So the early church battled against a form of teaching called the Judaizers, and the Judaizers taught that one, if they were a Gentile, first had to convert to Judaism and be circumcised before they could become a Christian and officially become saved and receive salvation from Jesus Christ. On the opposite end of those things, the early church was also battling against a heretical teaching called Gnosticism, or you could also call it Docetism, from the Greek word dokein, which means only seeming to appear. See, the Gnostics taught a number of things, but if we had to fiddle them down to just a few, one would be that the Gnostics believed that you could attain to some sort of transcendent, out-of-body knowledge that only you could have. And in fact, if your body contradicted this form of knowledge that you found and supposedly the divine realms, then you could disregard your body and you could continue to pursue this experiential, mystical, spiritual thought of the day. Gnostics also believed, interestingly enough, that God the Father subjected humanity to the physical realm as a form of punishment. Not that God the Father created the physical realm and then brought people in to the physical realm because the creation was good and people were good. No, the Gnostics in their false teaching taught that God the Father, as a form of wrath and punishment, subjected humanity to this physical realm. And they also then taught that in order to be freed from this physical realm, or get this, how sick is this? In order to be freed from the consequences and the guilt and the shame of the physical sins you'd committed in the body, that Jesus came to set you free from those sins, that Jesus came to forgive you of those sins, to set you free of external reality so that you could continue to pursue this experiential knowledge, and that if need be, you could continue to interact with prostitutes and you could live it up, and you now had a license to sin. You no longer had to feel bad about your sin because Jesus had freed you from the external world. See, the Gnostics went even to the point of self-flagellation or self-harm because they thought the physical realm was so bad. That's exactly why they taught a type of Jesus. That's exactly why they taught a type of phantom-like Savior. That's exactly why they taught that Jesus Christ did not come in the flesh, but he just merely seemed to have come in the flesh. See, they denied the incarnation of Jesus Christ. They called him a phantom-like figure, and they said that Jesus came to give you an experiential knowledge, that he came to set you free from the physical realm, and that he came to set you free from your sin so that you can live in it however you wanted. Now, you can understand why the early church, who believed that Jesus Christ came in the flesh, had to battle against such false teachings. We see evidence of this in 1 John chapter 4, where John the Apostle, in chapter 1, he was saying, look, we looked at him with our own eyes, we touched him with our own hands. Now he writes later on in his epistle, chapter 4, verse 1, Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits to see whether they are from God, because many false prophets have gone out into the world. By this you know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Jesus Christ has come in the flesh is from God. There it is, and he's battling against Gnostic thought. And every spirit that does not confess Jesus is not from God. This is the spirit of the Antichrist, of which you have heard that it is coming, and now it is already in the world. You are from God, little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he who is in you than he who is in the world. They are from the world, therefore they speak as from the world, and the world listens to them concerning their Gnostic thought. But we are from God. He who knows God listens to us, meaning us, the apostles. He who is not from God does not listen to us. By this we know the spirit of truth and the spirit of error. See, John the Apostle is saying, look, I spent time with Jesus Christ myself as one of the apostles. We saw him, we ate with him, we physically touched him. I laid my own head against his chest during the night of the final supper. As you think of the early Christians, they were battling against the type of teaching which said, hate your body, love this expressive individualism which you could elevate on the inside of yourself. In other words, hate external reality, love your own definition of internal reality. Whatever you think it is, whatever truth is for you, whatever truth is on the inside of you, that's what you can elevate. Whatever the external world says by logic and external reason and rationality, things that you can see and touch and hear, disregard it completely. You know, there's a book out that my wife and I are reading right now called Love Your Body. And I forget the author's name because we just began reading it, but she's making the case that the early form of Gnosticism, which hated external reality and hated physicality, is now being played out in our culture today. In other words, if you notice, all forms of sexual deviance, all forms of identity, you know, anything that pertains to eugenics and euthanasia and yada, 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 all the way down the road, the hookup culture, everything that it might be, all of it is actually a form of hating what God calls truth in the physical realm. Because if you sin in this way, you're going to end up with consequences in your physical body. And all of it is based in a type of spiritual pursuit of, you know, finding yourself and elevating your own internal reality above all the rest. If you think of Gnostic teaching, it said that you should hate the creation God put you in, and you should pursue this internal truth of your own. That's exactly what we're finding today. That's exactly the type of things that we're fighting against in the 21st century, against woke culture. And I want to encourage you to continue to think through church history and imagine, hey, you're actually not fighting against anything that's new. You're fighting against old heresies. Hey, again, this is Reestablishing the Truth. God bless you. See you next week.